There's a story about a certain preacher who got up one Sunday morning and abruptly announced to his parishioners that he was moving on. He stood up in the pulpit and said, "Today I am here to tell you all that I have been informed that I am to be leaving you. Jesus, who called me to this congregation, that same Jesus, has now called me to another church." Then the whole choir stood up and started to sing. What a friend we have. Today we are presented with 3 readings that speak about being called by God. First, the call of Isaiah, which reads a little bit like an account of an acid trip, although I can't say I can speak from first-hand experience on that, so maybe I'll just call it a spectacular dream. It's a call to be a prophet in Israel. Sounds cool, right? I'm a prophet. Hold your applause, please. Not really. The quick job description of a prophet is you will receive a message from God. You will deliver that message to the people of God, and no one will believe you. Not only will they not believe you, they will badger you, belittle you, and sometimes drag you into an alley and beat you up. Reread the second half of the first reading today and see if you can catch the sarcastic edge in Isaiah's description of the vocation of a prophet. That aside, items to note. This was a private call that happened in a personal vision. This was an individual call addressed to one person. And it's a unique call. There weren't many prophets in the history of Israel. Let's move on to the epistle and gospel about the call of the apostles. That word, apostle, means someone who is sent forth. And in this case, it's apostle with a capital A. These are the original big kahunas of the church. Jesus calls 3 individuals, Simon, James, and John. Simon, you're going to be the first pope. James, you're going to be the Archbishop of Jerusalem. And John, you're going to be out there catching people. Yes, I know that's a little vague, but we'll figure it out. Apostles. At first there were only 12. When Judas dropped out, a replacement was elected. And then Paul came in out of left field, as he says, the last and least of the apostles. 12 minus 1 plus 2. Total apostles ever called, 14. A personal call to 14 individuals to a unique role in the life of the early church. So was that the end of it? Are calls from God issued only to a few people for a few select roles and one-of-a-kind responsibilities? What about the rest of us? Do we get a call from God or from Jesus? Now, you know with all that rhetorical setup place, you know what the answer is going to be. Yes. Yes, we do. And where would we, absent a heavenly vision or a bolt of lightning or Jesus showing up at our workplace, where do we look to find that call? For anyone in the Anglican tradition, the correct answer to that question is always going to be the same. The prayer book. In this case, the logical place to look is to the event where each and all of us receive a call from God. Holy baptism. And what is that call? Well, you'll see it on pages 304 and 305 in the prayer book, where we find what some people call vows, some people call promises, and what the church refers to as the baptismal covenant. No need to look it up right now. I'm going to give you a quick summary. The first 4 questions are patterned. There are 9 questions in all. The first 4 are patterned on the Apostles' Creed, with the liturgy celebrant asking all who are gathered about their beliefs in each of the members of the Trinity, along with a concise understanding of their natures. And this is followed by 5 questions regarding how we will put into practice the faith we profess with God's help. The first 2 are broad references to formal religious practices, including centrally the celebration of the Eucharist and an ongoing commitment for conversion of life. Then they get very concrete. And this is where our call becomes clear. Will you seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? Will you proclaim by word and example the good news of God in Christ? Will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? This is not a call to certain individuals to be prophets or apostles or to serve in any special roles. One of my favorite elders of the tradition says, "Don't ever say, 'I am a Christian.' Instead, say, 'I strive to be a Christian.'" That's called discipleship, the discipline of faith. And as I read the baptismal covenant, it looks pretty clear that the call to discipleship is a call to be kind. That may sound simple. So simple that one might say, "What? Surely there's more to it than that." And there is. But there's nothing more basic than this, which involves our imitation of the character of God. In the Hebrew scriptures, it's called hesed, loving kindness. In the Christian scriptures, it's called agape, heartfelt goodwill toward others. That's the nature of the God in whose image we are made. baptismal covenant says it 3 times in 3 different ways. It is to practice kindness. And practice is the right verb here because kindness is not easy. Because kindness is not the default position for human beings, unless they're unusually awake. Our default is unkindness. Most often, if we're not paying attention, we're going along on autopilot. We operate out of our oldest, most primitive brain back here. It's the reptilian brain. And it's exactly what it sounds like it might be. Cold-blooded, self-protective. Unkindness is unconscious. Kindness requires conscious thought and intention. Unkindness is reactive. Kindness is proactive. Kindness happens at the speed of sound. Unkindness happens at the speed of light. So we've got to get ahead of it. You've heard of malice aforethought. Malice doesn't really require a forethought. It will appear in a flash. Benevolence aforethought takes effort and intention. Stop for a moment here, because I want to be clear. I'm not talking about anything dramatic. I'm talking about everyday, ordinary living. Now here's the great thing about this call from Jesus. Kindness is something anyone can practice. And therefore, everyone can strive for it. No matter your age, your IQ, your education, your personal history, your station in life, your occupation, your socioeconomic status, your physical capabilities, your location, or the time of day. What am I leaving out? It doesn't matter. If you are in the presence of one other person, you can practice kindness. For that matter, even if you're alone, you can practice it because you can think kind thoughts that create their own energy for good. All of us can practice kindness, and in that way make visible and touchable in the world the God in whose image we are created. Simple, but not easy. Practice makes the world a better place. On that note, I conclude with the memorable suggestion of a long-running late-night television commercial from way back in the 20th century. Some of you might remember it. Using my best TV voiceover tone. You ready? So you don't forget, do it before midnight tonight. Or, if not, there's always tomorrow. Well, almost